I am Meg Martin, Executive Director of Interfaith Works.
Sharon Lee, I'm the Executive Director, Low Income Housing Institute, or LIHI.
My name's Eric Blank. I work at LIHI as a design manager.
My name's Rob Dean. I am an architect with Encore Architects.
The homeless crisis has been pretty severe in Olympia and Thurston County. And so we did set up a tiny house village, the Plum Street Village. And it's been very hard to find where can people move from a tiny house, or where can people move from the Interfaith Works shelter. Like, you don't want to live in a tiny house forever, and you don't want to live in a shelter forever. So that's why this development is so crucially needed.
So when we had the opportunity to work together with LIHI and work on the first home fund project, the taxpayers passed a sales tax initiative in 2018. And so we're now seeing the fruits of that effort being built.
If you can imagine, it is one building, but we have 7 funders. We have 7 major funders. And of course, I just mentioned one of them, which is the city of Olympia. They gifted us the land, plus they used home funds. And then we have Thurston County. We have a allocation of funds from Thurston County, as well as the State Housing Trust Fund. And we have a tax credit investor, and we have a construction lender.
I would say that their combined sort of vision for this particular project is something that raises a question of need and access for housing. And our firm specializes in housing, and we're really excited to see their vision of providing shelter space and housing for folks that really need it. And their partnership has informed how the building has been set up on the site, within the building, access points, and communication. And that's been really interesting and joyful to see how those pieces have come together.
During design, we had the pandemic. We had it, we're still having it. But we went back to the drawing board a couple of times to figure out how to make the building safer. And we worked with Interfaith Works to think about how they were using the space now, or how they were planning on using it, and then how they would use it in a pandemic. This was before we had a vaccine, so we were also thinking, how is life going to change after it? And through some really good discussions, or really useful discussions about that, we were able to make some really simple modifications to the interior circulation, which is going to give Interfaith Works flexibility in how they use the space and how they break up the dorms. We looked at the mechanical system again. We worked with our engineers to figure out the best way to provide natural ventilation and also mechanical filtration that's going to make everybody safer.
The idea of the building is to have this sort of upper mass that sort of floats over the level 1 shelter space. And in the upper masses, we're using these 2 sort of contrasting colors to give sort of a visual contrast. We're also introducing sort of a warm infill color at recessed bays that sort of rhythmically go along the facade. And as you drive down the street or walk down the street, sort of reveals of color will come across and reveal themselves, like a pure sense of a value change across the building. And at that level 1 level that we were talking about, we're introducing, as you approach in the courtyard, we're providing sort of a calming green color that visitors can address.
It's been really amazing working with Walsh Construction. I've never gone through a process like this before, and so it's been really eye-opening just to see how the whole process goes from the design to now. What's really cool is that since the shelter is the bottom level, everything on this site is gridded out for the shelter floor plan. And so right now, if you were to have a bird's eye view of the site, you can see where all the sleeping dorms are going to be, where the bathrooms are going to be, and just going through each of those steps and seeing it come to life, it's really an amazing process. And I feel like both the architecture team and the construction team have listened really well all along the way, have really validated all of our needs and wants and desires, have been flexible to meet those needs in the most cost-efficient way. And that's just been the most rewarding part of all of this, besides imagining the day when our shelter guests are moving into apartments of their own. That's been the most rewarding part of this whole process, is growing those professional relationships and really also providing a pathway for what this can look like to happen again in our community, because we have such an incredible lack of permanent supportive housing options in Thurston County. And while this is going to make an opening in the bottleneck of the housing and shelter system that we haven't seen ever before, it's not going to solve the whole problem, right? And so we are going to have to continue to look for ways to build more units, to create more housing for that extremely low and very low income group of people in our community. So there are many ways that the community can help. On the one hand, there's individual things every single day. When you're walking by someone, acknowledge their presence as a human, sharing space with you. Say hello. Get to know people's names in your neighborhood if you see the same folks over and over again. Building those relationships and making that human connection is how policy ends up changing, right? Because we can understand each other and understand each other's issues in a more real way. And I think the pandemic has been able to help society make that shift more than we've ever seen before. In terms of this development, Interfaith Works is having to level up in a way that we haven't before. We're going to be partnering with LIHI to provide case management on site for all the residents. So on top of having 24-hour staffing that will benefit the health and safety of the whole building, we also are going to be providing case management services. There are furnishings that we're needing for the space. We're going to have a community kitchen. There's going to be laundry. Everybody's bed space is going to have their own locker and bedside table and lamp. And so there's just all kinds of furnishings to make the building and the shelter space feel welcoming and having everything that people need. And so the community, we are asking for your help in helping us raise this house. And we hope that you will visit 2828martinway.org to find out how you can get more involved.